Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2498. Today we're going to talk with the founder of a very high-end Mercedes-Benz tuner and specialty shop, Rentec Mercedes. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in Stuart, Florida, where it's always sunny, with a very special guest by the name of Hartmut Feyhl. Hartmut, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have it in gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Yeah, I'm ready to hit the throttle. I'm in D. Remember, I'm a Mercedes guy.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's okay because I love German cars, and the stuff that you guys do to Mercedes and other marques we're going to learn about today is absolutely insane. So excited to have you here. But before I give you a more proper introduction, when we get into Rentec Mercedes and other brands, what's one little thing that maybe people don't know about you, Hartmut?
Well, I mean, there's really not too many secrets, but I mean, everything is kind of public these days, right?
Yep.
So what maybe a lot of people don't know, unfortunately, is, that my time at AMG in Germany in the 80s, late 70s, and then 80s. So that was obviously the pre-merger time, and that was a time when AMG just started growing and then developing that four-valve engine, developing and building the Hammer, which obviously was a project, that put AMG on the map, so to speak. Both of those, the cylinder head development of those four-valve heads, and then of course that four-door sedan that did 300 kilometers.
Yeah, insane.
So that was the goal. That was the reason and the goal why we built that. And it took a little while. There were some challenges, of course, along the way. Yeah. But finally did it in a kind of, I don't want to say second generation, but in the beginning there was not a 5.6 liter yet. There was a 5 liter engine, the V8 M117, and we had up to 5.4 liters at the end of that period, and that was in the first Hammer, first Hammer actually. Yeah. Was a 5.4, and that just didn't quite do it, and then when the 5.6 liter came out, then we had the 6 liter available, and then we built one with a 6 liter. Picked that back up again, and it still what took us a little bit to finally pass the 300. Even just the pure power or additional power there, it did not do it. So anyway, but that's almost pretty much a different story for a different time. Maybe.
Well, it's the precursor as you were getting your MBA, if you will, to what you're doing today. So I appreciate you kind of bringing us up to date. Yeah, some monster machines being built back then. Let me give you a proper introduction, and we're going to talk about the incredible things that you and your team are doing today. Hartmut Feyhl is the founder of Rentec Mercedes, that is the premier Mercedes-Benz specialist and leading tuning authority for luxury European vehicles, also including Porsche, Audi, Bentley, Aston Martin, and others. With a background of 12 plus years at AMG, as he mentioned about in Germany, followed by serving as the technical director of AMG North America, Hartmut is regarded as the foremost authority on Mercedes tuning in the United States. Rentec's principle is performance without compromise, and boy, do they do that. A philosophy evident in their extensive line of high-performance products and customizations that include tuning solutions for AMG vehicles. Their comprehensive approach to tuning solutions with in-house design, engineering, manufacturing capabilities in their state-of-the-art engineering equipment allows for proprietary tuning products of the highest standard. We're going to learn a lot more about going fast, but first, a word from our sponsors. So we'll take a little break, pull into the pits, and we're going to be ready to go in just a minute. So give them a little love. We'll be right back. For several years now, you've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine. I've been a subscriber since the start. Their talented and creative team brings you a spectacular publication and website that shares the automotive passion from a worldwide perspective. Linkage is about driving, restoring, collecting, and first-hand experience at collector car auctions and more. They bring you real-world values plus rational, experienced opinions on the current markets. They cover the automotive world and the people who share our passions. And Linkage Magazine has grown, mailing you 6 issues annually. Join me on this journey with Linkage. They're geared for the automotive life. You can subscribe at linkagemag.com. Are you ready to take charge of your financial future? Then let me introduce you to Capitalize Your Finances. It's an online course designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools for mastering your money. This course will help you lay out the ins and outs of budgeting, the importance of emergency funds, investing strategies, and how to plan for a secure retirement. All this presented by financial planner Chris Paniotu. Chris has developed this course to help you effectively navigate your world of finance with confidence. Stop stressing about money and start taking control. Enroll in Capitalize Your Finance online course today and pave your way to financial success. To learn more, go to capitalizepodcast.com/courses, or better yet, go to the Cars Yeah website, show notes page for today's show, and click on the link under Capitalize Your Finances. You'll be glad you did. Do it today. So, Hartmut, you got us up to speed on where you came from, where you got so much of your knowledge and contributed so much to AMG. And AMG Mercedes is one of those names that all of us in the automotive world have heard about, we know about. But you decided to go out on your own. You took a big, bold step. I want to talk a little bit about what brought you to that point of starting your own brand. And then we're going to get into some of the details of some of the monster machines that you guys create there. Oh my goodness. If I had any hair to blow back, it'd be blowing back right now. But at any rate, how did you make the decision to take that big, bold step to step out and start Rentec?
Well, basically, I started Rentec 35 years ago in '89. And before that, I got here to the States, into Chicago in '86. So, and that was through AMG. You know, they needed a tech, an engineer at AMG North America in Chicago to build those Hammers here in the United States, and of course auto cars and test cars for the magazines. You know, in those days, magazines were king.
Changed a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, to say the least. Now we got the anonymous internet where everybody can say whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, a little weird, but you know, the nice thing about it is it does connect people faster. Of course, that puts a lot more pressure on everybody. But anyway, continue, please.
Yeah, so it goes a little bit further back, you know, but and I started in Fort Lauderdale for a year, you know, just myself, of course, you know, and then a year later moved up to the coast in Florida there and went to Delray Beach and then had another tech, 2 techs, and then the sale, you know, just kind of grew. Yeah. And also within cooperation with AMG, you know, because I was basically holding the flag for AMG in those years when the merging took place. And that was initially the main reason for me to stay. Because I was basically on my way back to Germany, to AMG. My time was over. It was supposed to be 3 years. So then they had these negotiations with Mercedes, and I was asked to stay longer, and which I did with my own company, and which was obviously supported by AMG in that time with Hans-Werner Aufrecht, and I handled all the AMG affairs, so to speak, all the warranty claims, anybody called in Germany about the AMG car with a problem or wanted to have something new, something extra, they basically referred them to Rentec.
Well, you obviously enjoyed the palm trees of Florida, quite different than most of Germany. And it seems like you just decided to plant yourself there in the sunshine and build this brand that you've built. And boy, have you built a brand. I mean, looking at your website and your magnificent facility there and the team that you've put together there, as they say, you come a long way, baby. And you're doing some amazing things. And I want to talk a little bit about this concept of tuning cars, because it's been something that's been around for a long time, but there's a lot of tuners with a lot of different marks. I've had many of them on this show, but Mercedes is one of those brands that sometimes you think about, wow, all the engineering that goes on at the factory, why would you want to tinker with this thing and make it any different? Because the brain power back in Germany at Mercedes is pretty darn powerful, but people always want to go a little faster, don't they?
That is correct. I mean, that's the name of the game since humans exist, right?
Yeah.
They all want to improve, want to change, want to individualize maybe or whatever, and that's what AMG made big and whatever. There was the same questions and the same issues in those days. Why would you want to take a Mercedes and change it? It's perfect or whatever,
Sure.
It's things are never perfect, so to speak, and certainly not for the individual. Always room for improvements and things like that, and that's where AMG came in, and that's where I come in, and other tuners, of course. Of course, the tuning world and the concept, obviously, just like anything in life, and especially in the tuner world, constantly changes in the business world. There's these periodic changes that are seemingly accelerating lately as time goes on. But tuning obviously is different, has a different kind of twist these days. It basically is more electronic, obviously, more software these days, certainly. And so, which is good and bad, of course. We can make, obviously, with software a lot more power than we did in 30, 40 years ago with regular tuning, even kind of doing all kinds of displacement increase and whatever. We're doing same thing with changing the software. So we make like 100 horsepower more in certain models, certain engines, just with software, turbo engines. So that's pretty incredible. And then of course we are well over 1,000 horsepower on our top versions.
That's the GT63.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the monster. That thing is a beat. I mean, well, one of the things I want to ask you about this is with tuning, because as you say, it's changed a lot. Cars are rolling computers these days, and you can go in and remap things and change things. But how does that affect the original design of the car back to what it was originally purposed for? Does Mercedes and other brands now, of course, because you can tune a lot of different vehicles, do they make these cars so that they can be tuned up to what you guys do and others? Or if you just figured out a way to go in and tinker and play like the old hot rodders used to do with new heads and, all sorts of things? I mean, I always wonder, what risk am I putting my beloved vehicle at when I do these monster things to them, or is there really not a big concern about that?
I mean, a manufacturer has obviously different goals. They have warranty in the back of their mind, of course, which is a very top spot. They have certification. They have, obviously all the emission laws and emissions certifications worldwide, especially, and not just for one country. So it's built for a very, very big variety of customers and models as well, and countries and driver profiles and whatever. So they have to have reserves, so to speak, in there. And the way turbos work, for example, they have an efficiency, a sweet spot, so to speak.
Right.
And then you can obviously go a little bit over, and go a little bit more to its limits. Unfortunately, some tuners go a little bit beyond that, and then it starts damaging the turbos, and obviously a lot of times when the turbo gets damaged because it cannot tolerate the RPMs you're putting it through. And certain turbos and certain models can tolerate a little bit more than others, certain models or engines, they have let's say a cheaper turbo on it, where it's all cast pieces and not precision machine pieces. They tolerate very, very little more, if anything. And then certain cars that are already a little bit more high performance, they are much better engineered and machined, and more expensive pieces in there, and they can
tolerate
they can tolerate.
How do you guys deal with, say, if I have a newer Mercedes and I come to you with the warranty issues? I notice on your website you're saying in many cases I don't need to worry about that.
Well, it's also changing, and we also always had obviously a very good relationship with Mercedes-Benz USA. We have taken care of some of I've helped them out in the beginning with the transition into AMG, over years, in the early 90s. That is all long forgotten and things like that, But we did project cars, we did VIP customer cars for them and things like that in the past. We did show cars or vans rather. So it's a little on and off, but it's it depends on management, but down to the letter. Anything that you modify, any brand, any car, any consumer product that you tinker with, you basically lose your warranty. I mean, in a complex item like a car, you have obviously engine, driveline, you have convenience features, safety features, body, glass, paint, suspension, you name it. So you obviously, depending on what you modify, and so if you, like us, let's say engine modification, your whole driveline is affected. So you put 100 horsepower more in it, 10, 20, 30% more performance in it and horsepower in it, it's pretty much understandable.
Starts to stress parts, right?
Yeah, that Mercedes-Benz, as a manufacturer, they don't want to pay for that anymore if you break something. So, and it depends on the dealer, to make the right decision, to decide, what and why and how did that whatever part break, and if this is a warranty case or not. And in worst case scenario, if they can't make a decision, then they call MBUSA and they make the decision for them, and then it depends on all who you talk to, right? So, but in the last few years, it becomes stricter and stricter. Of course, everybody's being squeezed these days for profits, and warranty claims is basically a big cost factor for manufacturers, and if they can cut that down, that's more profit. So it's certainly one thing they're looking at, and they're clamping down more, and it has to be addressed. And we have that actually addressed now. It took us about 2 years to accomplish, and we partnered with a warranty insurance company, extended warranty, and whatever. We hammered out a plan to make a coverage for the cars that are under factory warranty. So the first 4 years of its life that cover our Rentec modifications.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So that is just being launched now, the couple 2-3 months ago or so, and that is rolling on, and that will be that's a big deal.
It's a huge safety factor for people that want to do this. I was going to ask you, have you seen in let's say the last 5 years or so, your customer base change very much? Because as I'll call myself a baby boomer, which I am. At least my kids remind me of that all the time. But as my generation starts to age out, and this younger generation, and many of them have some extra spare change in their pocket because of the tech world and businesses and things, have you seen your company profile or your customer profile change a lot to a lot more, maybe you and I would call younger folks?
Yes. I mean, changes are always there in business. And since day one, when I started my company, and if I think even further back when I worked for AMG, it changes constantly. But in general, the tendency is obviously the age is going down. Average ages of my customers are going down. It used to be in the 90s and 2000, it was pretty much the successful business people that that obviously they were in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s. So I had quite a few customers that were they were now finally retired. They have all this money. They worked all their lives,
Sure. Yeah, they want a toy or two.
And they want a few toys, and they always had good, nice stuff and nice cars. And they obviously had already lots of experience with tuners and modified cars and customers throughout their years. And with mixed experiences, of course, but they doing their homework, and they have done their homework, and they have obviously a pretty good size of experience and wisdom, so to speak. And those guys were our customers that did, and in general, the people that do their homework and do their research and know what they want and educated themselves a little bit, they are landing in my doorsteps.
I wanted to ask you, when you look back to your days at Mercedes and all the people that you were around, was there somebody that was what I like to call a driving inspiration, a key mentor, or someone that you really looked up to that helped you get where you feel like you helped you get to where you are today?
Yes, I think that can clearly answer. There's basically two people I can think of. Is Erhard Melcher and Hans Werner Aufrecht. That's the A and the M from AMG. And the Erhard Melcher, for example, I mean, he's just amazing engineer, not just in his head, as far as talented automotive engineer with engines. The whole aspect of the car, aerodynamics and suspension, and of course, primarily on top of it, all his engines and camshafts and valve train. He did all the development for AMG, even though he actually left the company very early. That was in the 70s already. But as a contractor, he did all the development. He developed the 4-valve engine. He developed pretty much at least the early racing engines, the 190, the DTM, the V6, then the DTM car, the 2.5 liter, and then the V8 DTM engine, the Formula 3 engine, completely developed pretty much on his own. No, he's quite something, and again, not just the theoretical knowledge. He knows how to put it down on paper. In the early days, on the drawing board.
Sure.
And these days it's a little bit more computer, but even his old age kind of learned as well. He's just, whatever he touches, he gets into it and he gets it done and better than anybody else. Yeah. And including mechanical. I mean, he was basically machining the castings, the early castings on the AMG 4-valve engine. He was, from the wooden model that he carved out to place in the cars, to make sure it fits everything, to the early castings, machining those by hand in his milling machine and lathe and whatever, making the camshafts by hand and grinding it and machining it. And I mean, at every single part, that he could not buy off the shelf, he was basically designed it and made it. Wow. Himself. And then, of course, when volume got up a little bit, those were all then outsourced, but sure. all the prototyping, everything, and it's
the maestro.
Amazing guy. You have no idea about this guy.
What a joy to be able to grow up in your career around that kind of prowess and expertise. And I mean, these engineers that are hands-on engineers, the old school, I guess, if you will, and there are probably still some today, but I think you know what I mean. The guys that could actually build the stuff they were dreaming up. Quite spectacular. I want to talk a little bit about a challenge you faced either in your business or your career. And the reason I bring this up is more about the learned lesson from that uncomfortable time. Is there one you could share with us?
Sure. I mean, it's, like I said, the other guy, Hans Werner Aufrecht, as far as business goes, the drive and the energy and the vision this guy has was always impressive. And that was always a role person for me, and that kind of guided me in my business. And I mean, in general, it's like you have to go your own direction, of course, and that's kind of what I learned there from Hans Werner Aufrecht. He was just, like I said, he was just marching on, with all the challenges, and there were plenty. I can guarantee you that, financially, business-wise, and personal, and everything else. The company was small enough; you kind of could see those. And it's just also what I learned is not to get led by negative advice. If you kind of want to do something and then they kind of say, well, that's, you can forget that because of this and because of that and because of this is not going to work out because of, are they looking for somebody else, or if it's a career job, if they're looking for a younger person or they're looking for whatever. And then you find out this could have worked out very well,
Yeah, if you'd just taken a leap of faith.
Exactly. So it's, it kind of, you have to stay your course, even though it seems tough and it seems taking longer, but it's not the long road, because otherwise you're just kind of trying to take a few shortcuts or whatever, because it may seemingly is a shortcut, but at the end of the day, it's a dead end, and then you start fresh, and then you have another dead end, start fresh, and at the end of the day, you're either at the same. It basically takes longer than going your own way in first place. And
you got to just buckle down and do the work. And
exactly
that work takes a lot of effort and time. Yeah,
Yep.
I basically, it sounds like you're saying there are really no shortcuts, especially when it comes to this type of business and world. You've got to do the work to make things right. And if you don't, you'll suffer later, especially when it comes to engine parts and anything when it comes to the mechanical world. So good advice.
Absolutely.
You've been around some insane vehicles, and I wonder if you'd share maybe one special vehicle story with us, maybe a vehicle that you've had that you can look back on with a big smile on your face.
Well, I mean, as far as vehicle, it's basically an engine, the M120 V12 Mercedes engine, that Feyhl. That's just an awesome engine. It was always my most favorite when it was still in production in the 90s or 2000. Well, 90s and 2000. And it actually is coming back, and we're starting some resto mods with it. Punching them out now used to do it 7.4 liter, which we still do. But now we are at another level with 7.6 liter and a few other developments. As far as car, it actually would be a car that we built for Car and Driver at one point, a sedan, a W210 E-Class with that model, that M120 7.4 liter in it. It was just exceptional in every way. It just did everything right. The sound especially was just incredible. The intake sound was insane, so you heard the car coming at you. It's like, and you have to turn around. It's like, what is this?
What is this? Yeah.
And then you go, this kind of growling, it's like, obviously not a V8. It's just kind of, it's aggressive but smooth and pleasant, So and then it passes you by, and then the exhaust sound from that V12. It's just like, wow, and it makes your hair stand up,
Yes.
So that was exceptional, and that and the power just from the beginning to over 6,000, it just seemed endless. It just kept pulling and pulling in every gear, no matter which gear you were in there. And that was quite something.
I love those E-Class cars. They're just wonderful. So I'm going to crawl into your head and be a bit of a car psychologist with you today, Hartmut. If you were manifest as a vehicle, and not what you want to be, but this is how you perceive yourself as some type of vehicle, what would you be, but more importantly, why?
Well, basically, I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly, but if it is me being a vehicle, I think I would be that E-Class with a M120 V12 7.6 liter, and with the transaxle, with the proper weight balance and on, and carbon ceramic brakes, just like one of these older E-Classes, the 210 or even the 124 or something like that, where it's light and a little bit more compact, not as big and heavy, and that is, to me, the ultimate car. Has 4 doors, and it does everything right. It's has all the emotion, has for every day. The feel, the sound, it can be civil, can be ferocious, everything. Everything in one shell.
Well, it makes sense knowing who you are and what you've done for your career. I would expect something like that from you. And, something I didn't ask you earlier, but I wanted to touch on this. I want to get we could talk for probably an hour about this, but maybe just a short concept from you is the up and coming EVs. You knew I was going to go there. What is your opinion? Because this is such a big change. And of course, Mercedes, with all their technology, is one of the forefronts of leading technological electric vehicles. But I just wonder what your impression is of what's happening in that world. Not so much that the challenge it's having right now, which we all know it is, and there's obvious reasons, but just in the future, looking in the future, when you and I are sitting in our rocking chairs, I hope we're never doing that, and we're talking about, the transition that happened. How is something like that going to affect your business, or are you not really concerned about it? Because there's always going to be these diehard ICE guys that love an engine in a vehicle and not a motor. You know what I mean?
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
What's your thought on all that?
Well, yeah, first of all, there is a thing like synthetic fuels and things like that, and the fuels getting cleaner. And that is a must, because there's obviously so many ICE cars around, so they're not going to go away, not in 10 years, not in 20 years. And then especially cars like we're working on, those V12s and this and that. Who wants to see those leave? That's almost going to be impossible. But, they, need to clean up. And that can be done, So and that's basically the challenge, and that's what we doing, and that's one of my goals. These restomods, and taking these kind of cars basically off the road, so to speak, and increase modernizing them in regards to performance and to emissions, doing modern catalytic converters and everything, and top performance and on and on and on. And also one part of it that I see and that we started working on it with a partner company in Washington, actually, Washington State there.
Yeah, out here.
Is, that has developed really nice EV packages for Porsche. And we partnered up with them, and we're doing the developments and the installation, so to speak, into iconic Mercedes, and I'm talking cars like 190 SL, 280 or 230 SL rather, the Pagode, the 560 SLs, those kind of cars, and make EVs out of it.
Yeah,
and
I've seen more and more of that happening. I had many of those folks on this show. And we could do an 2-hour show on that whole concept, but
right.
I just wanted you to touch on it. Cars are so clean nowadays. I just go back to growing up in Southern California in the 70s, how dirty the air was, especially up in LA, and that's all vanished now because cars are just so clean. So I think people forget that, especially if they weren't around in the 70s like when I was. And some days you'd have your eyes burning because like, man, we got to do something about this. Well, obviously the manufacturers have. So there's a lot of different options coming out. And I think it's fun. I think it's cool in many, many ways. How about a great book you could share with us? Is there one that you've enjoyed you think our listeners should read?
Well, I'm not big into books, to confess about that.
You're busy building a brand.
Well, that too. I'm kind of working my ass off all my life, so to speak, more or less. But I read the tech articles. There's a pretty serious engineering magazine in Germany from the Springer publisher. It's called ATC and MTC. So that's the one is engines. The MTC is engine related, and the ATC is more chassis and car related. There's all the manufacturers and engineers in the engineering world and manufacturing world, participate in that, and really very interesting, very serious articles and technical information in there. So that is, and then automotive news and these kind of things, and that kind of pretty much
makes sense to me for what you do for a living. Exactly. Always learning. I mean, this is a constant learning process. Well, I'm gonna, before I let you go today and get back to your business here, I want to take you on what I call the ultimate drive. I'm a bit of an enabler, so I'd like to park anything in your driveway. You can take it for a drive anywhere you'd like. And here's the key part, because this car world is really about the people. You can take anybody with you, including somebody from the past that's no longer with us. So to make the drive even more interesting. So what does the ultimate drive look like for a guy who's been around a lot of ultimate drives?
Well, I mean, if we're talking not driveway but racetrack, that would be
I'll do that. Yeah.
any of the iconic racetracks, and it would be a driver of the caliber like Michael Schumacher or Ayrton Senna, and obviously in either a Formula One car or an LMP1 car, something like that, and there won't be too much talking going on.
just enjoying.
Exactly, and then of course maybe afterwards have on a beer or whatever, have a nice conversation and chat. As far as road car, I mean, there's so many really good cars out there. I mean, talking Ferrari, I mean, those are some beautiful and excellent performing cars. Aston Martin, I mean, they have come a long way, obviously, with the help of AMG engines.
That's not a bad thing to tuck in there, is it?
Yeah. And Porsche, of course, and I mean, on and on, BMWs. I mean, there's really not any bad cars out there, especially in the upper market, sports car market, whatever. They all do things right, and as a matter of fact, that's kind of a little bit of downfall too, because they almost performance-wise they're almost all the same. They have a little bit different sound, a little different wheel, and a different label on it, and look a little different, but at the end of the day, they're doing the same thing. And that's kind of also, again, where a tuner like us comes in that customizes and makes it different, personalizes it, and puts it on the next level.
We are happy to have you, that's for sure. All of us car fanatics. Senna and Schumacher, two greats. Senna's one of my favorite F1 drivers, and of course Schumacher, just so sad what's happened to him. However, the legacy that he leaves behind and what he did was just spectacular. And you talked about being in a car with them. It's been a long time, but the last time I was at the Ferrari factory, I was there as part of their Cliente program and was back with all the Formula One cars. And I walked into this back room they have with all these classic old Formula One cars, and there was a Ferrari 3-seater F1 car. Have you ever seen that? I didn't even know it existed. And one of the guys walked through and I said, "What is this?" And he just smiled and he said, "Well, it's when you want to go for a ride with somebody who knows how to drive."
Exactly.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. They do exist. I think Minardi that time, now it's Toro Rosso, but when it was still Minardi, I think they were the inventor, so to speak. They initiated those 3-seaters to raise money, to go racing.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's just wild. Any of you listeners don't believe me, I've got a picture. I'll send it to you. Yeah. Pretty darn cool. Hartmut, you have taken us on a wonderful ride today, and I can't thank you enough for joining me. I want to do a shout out to one of your colleagues there, Lars Totterman, who helped put us together, but also Scott Schrader from the Palm event, who introduced me to you. So Scott and I become friends, and his magnificent event there at Mar-a-Lago, which is just killer. Scott also has a new event coming up this October called the Napa event, which is going to be very neat too. Thank you, you guys. Could you leave us with maybe some parting words of wisdom?
Well, life is too short for cutting corners and buying cheap parts and whatever, and going to amateurs for your car needs and especially if you have an expensive car and you want something special, you have to just go to leave it up to the pros. And it just you have to, if you want to modify your car, if you want to personalize it, want to tune it, do your homework, educate yourself, and then you will make obviously the better decision, right? I mean, that's the name of the game. And don't follow the advice of wannabe technicians and engineers, whatever, on the internet, on the forums. As a matter of fact, there's zero engineers there. Or
they're more opinions, aren't they?
They're all opinions, and they're all usually one-sided, and it's just not a wise way to do and to educate yourself. You have to do it a little. You have to put a little bit more work behind that.
It's kind of like the news these days, right? Just a lot of opinions, not too many facts.
Exactly.
So, no, that's absolutely right. You sound a bit like my dad, Hartmut. He used to tell me when I was a kid, save up until you can buy the best. Don't cut corners. Don't rush into it. You'll always wish you had waited until you could get what you really wanted. And that's good advice. And I'll tell you, listeners, Rentec Mercedes, the team there, Hartmut and everybody there, these guys are the best. You can check them out. I'll put a link. It's rentecmercedes.com. Check out their website. They work on more than just Mercedes, too. So they have solutions for everything in your life. Hartmut, hey, thanks for taking a pit stop with me today, sharing your expertise, your history. Man, what a legacy. What an icon. Until you and I talk again, my friend, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
This was a lot of fun. If you're listening to this program, there's a pretty good chance you believe what I believe, that the collector vehicles we love are more than just a means of getting from one place to the other. They're a part of our culture, our identity, and as a people, they bring us together at vintage races, classic car auctions, and 1,000-mile rallies. That's why I support the RPM Foundation, which exists to ensure that the critical skills necessary to preserve and restore these important vehicles aren't lost to time. RPM stands for Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship, and their goal is to inspire the next generation of vehicle restoration professionals through its outreach programs. And they include Shop Hop, Off to the Races, the RPM Future Class, and many others. These programs engage talented young people across the country and connect them with mentors and a variety of opportunities in the industry. For more information on how the RPM Foundation is driving the future of collector vehicles skilled trade, visit rpm.foundation today.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.